morning or good afternoon, respectively. Thank you for joining us today for this exciting webcast. My name is Kostya Ligris. I'm an entrepreneur resident at MIT based in Boston. And would like to just kick things off this afternoon or this morning, depending on where you are. The Hellenic Innovation Network, HIN, has a mission to accelerate technological innovation and entrepreneurship in Greece to fuel the economy and job creation. As an outgrowth of the MIT Enterprise Forum, Greece, HIN is a US-based nonprofit created with the support of the Consulate General of Greece in Boston to facilitate access to partners and best practices by building bridges between the diaspora and global tech hubs and the Greek tech community. HIN disseminates startup news, broadcasts educational webcasts like the one today, organizes monthly CEO group meetings, and hosts in-person pitching and network events. It is my great pleasure to hand this over and introduce you to Stratos Efthimiou, our Consul General of Greece located here in Boston. Thank you.
Thank you, Costa. It is a great pleasure to be part of this cross-sector collaboration, leveraging our diaspora's scientific, business, and financial resources. This is a week of joy for the Greek community in Boston. Biogen's CEO, Michel Vounatsos, and its president, Stelios Papadopoulos, deserve both our congratulations for the FDA's approval for Biogen's new medicine against Alzheimer's. And we are really proud of today's panel showcasing the successful investments of Pfizer, Orfium, and Brite Solar in Greece. These examples are indicative of a Greece that is changing. I think there is no one more appropriate than Alex Patelis, the economic advisor to the Prime Minister, to highlight the economic efforts to make Greece more attractive. Thank you, Mr. Patelis, for being here. And Michael Tzannes, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Strato. Thanks to everyone who joined us and to everyone else who tunes in later. This is a terrific panel that we managed to assemble. I'm very honored to be moderating and talking to each of you. The plan is to start with Mr. Patelis, who agreed to give us an overview of some of the initiatives that have happened in the recent past by the Mitsotakis government, and in particular focusing on those aspects that relate to setting up shop in Greece. So I'll turn it over to Alex to give us that, and then we'll open it up and have a hopefully lively and productive discussion. Alex.
Thank you very much, Michael, and good morning, good evening to everybody joining us today. It's a great honor and pleasure and privilege to be here, and thank you. I will agree, it's a terrific panel, and thanks to the organizers for putting it all together. So myself, I'm born and raised in Greece. I've lived 11 years in the UK, 7 years in the US. I studied in the US. I worked in New York for a period of time, loved the US, have been back in Greece, and 2 years ago joined the government of Kyriakos Mitsotakis as Chief Economic Advisor. My first job with Greeks and my first job in government. I have to say that it's been an incredible experience. The objective of the government from the beginning is to take what we have in Greece, the natural beauty. It's 26 degrees Celsius, 78 Fahrenheit outside today in this beautiful sunny day. And convert it into a place that everybody wants to do business from and work from. And from the beginning, we identified, I would say, two main areas that that we worked on. The first one, obviously, was reforms, and the second one was taxation. And on the reform side, the government has been very busy. In just under 2 years, there have been over 180 bills passed through Parliament. Too many to mention. Actually, we have a major labor reform bill being voted through next week. But I would say central to this, very important, were efforts towards digitization. And I have to say this preceded the pandemic. The Prime Minister Mitsotakis set up a ministry for digital reform, the first of its kind in the country, consolidated every digital aspect in it. The government has adopted a cloud-first policy and managed to attract Microsoft to create 3 data center regions in the country. Digitization has commenced and has taken over every aspect of life. digitizing the government. I should mention, if you see on above my head, top right, Greece 2.0, that's the program that I was privileged to be part of in its design, which basically utilizes the 32 billion euro of European Union money that Greece is eligible for, and 20% of that goes to digital efforts, digitizing the justice system, the records, digitizing land registries, digitizing education, helping SMEs, etc. About what is it now? In December, we did our 5G auction, one of the first countries to do so, and used 1/4 of the proceeds to invest and create an innovative fund that's called Festos, which is going to be investing in 5G services, because we all know 5G is this wonderful technology that nobody knows what it's about. We have projects on fast broadband all across the country, fiber to home, connecting our islands. Who wouldn't want to be in a Greek island and work out of there? I would say that the digital capacity of the country has been significantly improved and will be continuously improved. Digital, affects many aspects of life. For example, we have a project going on to use artificial intelligence and big data to better target tax audits in the fight against tax evasion. I'm just giving you one example. So reforms is the one aspect, and we're continuing on that. And the second one, of course, is taxation, lowering taxes and making it attractive towards entrepreneurs, but also towards people coming from outside Greece. And there's too many things to talk about here. I would highlight we have now a flat tax of 15% on stock options and restricted stock units that goes down to 5% for newly formed governments. We have a new database, Elevate Greece, with the startups in the country. There's a burgeoning startup ecosystem. We have incentives for angel investors, tax incentives for angel investors, and also super depreciation allowance for research and development. We've been lowering social security contributions. We want labor to be more attractive, and we eliminated the so-called solidarity income tax surcharge that was levied on higher incomes. We have a golden visa program for those who want to get residence in the country on the back of a small investment. We also have a non-dom program, which is for wealthy foreigners who can relocate to Greece and have a flat tax on their global income. We have a pensioner program too, but obviously this is not for this panel, but just gives you the flavor of how we're thinking. And the most recent scheme that has been very successful and has lured a lot of people is if you relocate your job to Greece, or you're a sole trader and you move your company to Greece, you have half your income tax free for up to 7 years. Half your income tax free for up to 7 years. So the pandemic obviously was a very difficult experience for everybody, and one that affected the whole world, Greece of course too. But through it, we do believe there are some positives for our country. The main one being that now we all learn that we can work, many of us can work and pick the location of where we're based. We think Greece is a super attractive place to be. And as I said before, we have the natural beauty, and the government has, the role of the government is to make sure that you have the infrastructure in place to be able to set it up quickly. Sorry, I forgot to mention that we have also had a lot of initiatives through Parliament to simplify licensing procedures. It's now very easy to set up a company in Greece. You can pretty much do nearly the whole thing online and in very few days. Licensing procedures have been simplified too, and a lot of businesses, the onus of the license has flipped, and you're sort of given your license unless something dramatic happens, you don't have to prove it anymore. This is a place that we want to do business. The mentality has changed completely. The government is a very pro-business government. We like to talk to people, and we like to attract them here. So if anybody from this call, when we're done, is interested in having more information or having a point of contact in Greece, I'm your man, so to speak, and please reach out either through the organizers or directly through me, and we would be delighted to help. And I will end my comments here. A little bit shorter than expected, but I thought it's better if we do conversations, always a little bit more interesting than listening to me speak. Thank you very much. Michael, over to you.
Great. Thank you, Alex. That's excellent. I have to make one quick advertisement for the Hellenic network, and that is our website, hellenic.org, has a very comprehensive document that describes a lot of what Alex was talking about. So if you'll go to our website and register, you go to the resources section, and there's a pretty well put together memorandum by some of the people on the committee here that tries to delineate all of these opportunities and advantages. So I want to just say one thing from Alex's comments, which is more personal than anything else, and that is he talked about how this government likes to talk and is open to communications. And I have had a direct experience with that, and I really think it's a positive thing. The fact that people can ask questions directly. He's not kidding. If you send him an email, he will reply to the email. And I think that's a very positive step in terms of transparency, and also for him and the rest of his government to understand what some of the challenges that people face are. So before I go and introduce everybody, I want to take the opportunity and just do a quick lightning round. So a minute each. What of all these things that have happened that Alex was talking about, or other things that you know about for each of your companies, has had a significant impact on your Greek operations in the last year or two? Let's start with you, Nico, from Pfizer.
Hello, everyone, and thanks a lot, first of all, for your invitation. It's really a pleasure for me being here with all of you. So I'm Nico Gariboldi. I'm the site lead of the Global Center for Digital Innovation of Pfizer. So I would say that for answering to your question, I think that for sure we found very good conditions for being here in Greece and for, I would say, setting up our operation, because I would say this is really the results of an in-depth analysis that we did globally for selecting Greece. So I would say that if I have to mention very briefly what are the reasons why we are now here, for sure it's there are mainly 3 or 4, I would say. So first of all, I'm always really, I would say, positively impressed by the quality of people that we are hiring here in Greece. So this is the first thing. So the digital talent pool that we found, it's really one of the main reasons why we selected to be here in Greece. So this is the first one. And I'm talking both of entry level, because the level of university is really, really good, but also about senior colleagues. So because, as you know better than me, also the tech environment is really good. So this is the first one. The second one, it's for sure the support that we are having, I would say, from the authorities, from the government, because there is a digital strategy, I would say, at also at national level that is supporting our work. This is also one of the conditions that supported our choice, but also the support that we are having in foreign investments, because you know better than me, this is also something that, especially for us, because we are identified as a research and development also organization, this is something that we are also benefiting. And also, I would say the ecosystem, because before we were also discussing about this is really important. So because also the way that we want to make innovation, it's strictly connected with the ecosystem. For us, the ecosystem means for sure institution, the partnership that we can make with institution, but also with the academia. So for human capital objective and also for research objective, and also the startup environment, the incubators. So I think that this is the ecosystem that we would like also, and we are already interacting with, and this was also one of the reasons why we selected to be here in Greece. So I think that all these things together in some way made our business case for Pfizer for here in Greece. And also I would say something that it's sometimes it's not so, I would say, direct, but also the fact that this is in the center of the world in some way. So you can collaborate with East and West, and considering that this is a global innovation, digital innovation center, this allows us to make projects. Colleagues are working globally with colleagues from Asia, from Europe, from US. So these are the reasons why we selected to be here. I don't know if this answers to
That's
your
perfect.
question.
Thank you, Nico. I really appreciate that. Nick Kanopoulos, why don't you tell us what about what Alex and his team have done have impacted you in the last couple of years? You're on mute, Nick.
The greatest impact is in the digitization process for authentication and dealing with the system. We have much less overhead in exchanging documents both with the government and with the banking system and other companies, because we can e-sign the documents through the taxes network, which is an IRS authority in Greece, and that is takes a lot of overhead out of the system. We expect more to be done in order to incorporate the legal system in that, because in Greece, in order to get payments or deal with Greek R&D authorities, you have to have certain documents coming from the courts, like non-bankruptcy and stuff like that. And right now, these take a long time to issue, like 2-3 weeks sometimes. The process is in place, I believe, in order to digitize that, and that will be a major step forward in reducing the overhead in doing business, first of all with the government and the other public authorities in Greece.
We also have Chris Mohoney here from Orfium, and again, I'll give each of you a chance to present a little more about your company, but I just wanted to try and stay connected to the stuff Alex told us. So Chris, tell us what, if anything jumped out at you from what Alex was saying that you have seen have a positive impact on Orfium's presence in Greece.
Yes, thank you, Michael. Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me. I think there's been a few things. Well, we've been here for 6 years, and we've seen the changes happening. I think when we first got here, there was a general feeling of a little bit of a lack of hope in the situation, and I think that's completely turned around. Lately, we've managed to recruit many Greeks actually from other countries who have been coming back now because now they're excited about the opportunities here. I think there's also a very strong community and ecosystem here that's been very supportive for us and has helped us in many different ways. There's a few venture capital funds we've been working with Big Pie. They've been very helpful, and I know that they get support from the EU, and I'm also here now on a long-term visa. So that program for me personally has gotten me here. So I think all around it's really been. I think we've seen the impact from every angle, and we do a lot of R&D here as well. So, the R&D incentives have also been a great help for us.
Great, very good. Well, thank you. So now let me turn to a sort of a more formal opportunity for each of you to tell us about your company, about what aspects of your company are in Greece, and why. So I'll start this time with Nick Kanopoulos.
Okay, I'm Nick Kanopoulos. I'm the founder and CEO of Brite Solar. Brite Solar is a nanomaterials company developing materials and material deposition methods for glass substrates and applications in agriculture and buildings. Applications that glass that generates energy or glass that saves energy. Actually, this time I've done it in reverse. I used to live in the US for 30 years, came back 9 years ago at the onset of the financial crisis in Greece, started this company, and then I started the company in the US with the same name. So it's the reverse, I guess. The fact that I'm in Greece is that when I was in the States, I had the experience of establishing a major operation here In fact, I would consider that a pioneering operation because it established the technological ecosystem in the region of Patras, where for the first time a US-based company was establishing a product development center for the international market. And this was a high technology product because it was semiconductors and in the forefront of the technology. And out of that operation, there are now quite a few companies that come from the 𝐴TML experience. Greece is.
I'll interrupt quickly there. Sorry, because I know it's difficult to talk about your own accomplishments, but Nick was a real trailblazer in the tech world in Greece, and indeed the R&D center he set up for 𝐴TML in Patras has spawned literally decades of technology development in that region, and most of the companies that you see in electronics and signal processing and anything to do with communications and systems like that, almost all have roots, people with roots back to the 𝐴TML design center. So he really made a difference. I don't know how well it's known. I've known Nick for, I don't know, 30 years or something. We met when I was still in high school, but he has been a real pioneer for the Greek building of the tech system, and that's why I feel like he really has a perspective that not only reflects today's stuff, but he's been through a lot. So he brings what I think is a valuable perspective. So with that, please continue, Nick.
Yeah, actually, this is a very good. I mean, for somebody who is, let's say, an American company, doesn't have any other ties other than business criteria in setting up shop in Greece. Greece is just another location that has to be judged purely on a business basis and investment versus benefit trade-off. However, for people of Greek descent or people who are Greeks that emigrated for whatever reason abroad, there is also a sentimental factor and tie back to the old country, which can be, I think, effectively used by the government in order to rearrange the model of the economy, because the Greek economy is largely based on is not high tech. The high tech contribution to GDP is very low, and we know that high tech has probably the best margins in terms of economic development. And if companies are attracted and establish successful operations, then an ecosystem can really blossom. And I would like to, based on what Michael said, I would like to share and show you just a slide, if you don't mind. This is what happened with the old experience. Okay, I founded a startup company in the US called Digital Communication Technologies. That company was bought by 𝐴TML, which was a mid-size couple $1 billion company in the Bay Area. We established the R&D center in Greece, actually product development center in Greece, and had 230 engineers in Patras developing integrated circuits. Now, out of the 𝐴TML and the experience an international company gave to people coming out of the university or having, let's say, a little bit of experience, or people that we attracted from abroad, all these companies were formed. So 𝐴TML created the CEOs and founders for all these companies. And some of these companies, for example, Think Silicon, these guys used to work for me, were bought by Applied Materials, which was my last employer in the US. Iconis was merged with the company and found 𝐒𝐩𝐿, which is out of Sweden. Dialog and Renaissance, again in the semiconductor business, and u-blox. So basically, you can start a successful operation, and after a while, you have an ecosystem. And of course, if many of those happen, then a whole economy can happen that will deliver a higher margin for the companies, for the operations, and contribute more and more to the country's GDP. And of course, we know that the most successful countries in the world are not based on cultivating agricultural products or being, purely touristic countries.
Yeah, I do think the current environment in Greece reflects that more than it did in the past. I mean, there's definitely a bigger focus on that sort of thing.
Absolutely.
I'd like to turn it to Chris to tell us about Orfium. I know you're in LA, I believe, and Athens primarily. So tell us about your operations and what goes on in Greece and how that's been going for you guys.
So we're a music and media rights technology business. So we specialize in providing software solutions to tracking rights and royalties. And historically, we've been very much focused on music. Now we're broadening to general audiovisual content, TV, film, etc. And our operations in Greece started out as exclusively in R&D activities. So we've actually been in Greece since the beginning. When we started in LA, we were 4 employees initially, and 2 of us were in LA and 2 in Greece. And then we kind of, grew together in both locations. LA became more of a business development and operations hub, while Greece was where we built all the software. But starting last year, that's actually been changing. We've been bringing more and more roles to Greece. So as of today, about 1/3 of our roles in Greece are outside of R&D, and by the end of the year, it'll be half of the roles will be business operations, marketing, and so it's really becoming a self-sufficient, complete operation, and also more and more decision making is moving over here as well.
Great, thank you. So, Alex, we have on this particular panel different types of companies that have decided for one reason or another to be located in Greece. Some are R&D centers, others are full-blown operations. The benefit to the economy of Greece is different in those different situations, right? An R&D center generates some amount of corporate tax income, presumably, certainly generates jobs, which are important. An actual operation in Greece can generate corporate taxes. Is there a priority inside the government as you were thinking about how some of these incentives would be put in place towards unemployment, towards increasing revenue for the government? How do you guys look at that, and how do you look at it on a going forward basis?
Thank you very much. I guess that the easy answer is we want it all. But on a more serious note, we believe the role of the government is to remove obstacles to investment and to create the infrastructure, as I mentioned before, and the right tax system, and then let the market figure it out. And each business, either those represented in this panel or others, has its own merits. I'll give you an example. When Microsoft decided to build 3 data centers in Greece, that was not going to create a lot of jobs in the construction phase, but it would obviously create a lot of jobs indirectly once the data centers are operational, and also through the training programs that they run. Orfium is an incredible story as well. I've met Chris and others in the past. Here we have a company that's taking advantage of the talent, presumably, that Greece has. And I should add here that the talent is kind of an interesting story. I remember I met a executive from a multinational company, and they asked me, they wanted to build a factory in Greece, and they said, you know, what's the population on a 30-minute drive radius? And I said, what do you mean? He said, well, you know, we need to know what is the commute to attract people to move to work here. I said, you don't need a 30-minute radius. I said, just put an ad and everyone's just going to relocate to where the job is. And the reality is that we have a hidden, let's say, weapon, which is, of course, the 500,000 Greeks that left during the crisis and the 5 million Greeks around the world of various Greek descent. And so a company like Orfium that operates in Greece has access to that talent. I would argue, well, I don't want to put words in people's mouth, but Pfizer had a similar experience. As you know, Pfizer started with a digital hub in Thessaloniki, and if I'm not mistaken, got over 30% of its resumes coming from outside Greece, and ended up doubling the size of the hub, and now is planning to do a services hub as well in Thessaloniki. And of course, Brite Solar, you know, solar investment is another thing that we need, simply because we have to achieve our climate change objectives, and we as a government have a green priority too, which obviously is not the focus of this panel, but exists as well. So in response to your question, we don't see our job as trying to attract a particular type of investment. And let me give an example. I would never have thought that, you know, Orfium would be something. I mean, music rights management, I have no idea what it is, and I don't have to understand it. So, but the advantages are there, and what we need to make sure is that there aren't obstacles for people who wanted to take advantage of what Greece has to offer. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alex. Nico, you touched on this in your opening comments, and that was that Pfizer went through some due diligence, some searching as to whether Greece was the right place to do what you ended up doing. I would imagine, and actually got a question on the chat already about other companies wanting to know how to make the business case. You know, what is it that they should be thinking about? And this may be something, Alex, for the government as well, you know, some sort of roadmap of the kinds of things that are easier to do in Greece nowadays. But tell us a little bit more, Nico, about your diligence process and what you went through. You know, for someone at a company who might be thinking about doing what you did in Greece, and the kinds of things they should question, the kinds of things you ask yourselves, and the kinds of answers, and where you found the answers.
Okay, thank you for your question. I would say the business case in some way was based on the comment that I made at the beginning of my speech. So I would say, considering that this Center for Digital Innovation, it's really devoted, I would say, to innovation. So as you may know, Pfizer a couple of years ago especially started to accelerate the process for digitalization in general, for all of our operation internally, but also for supporting especially patients outside and all of our stakeholders. So, and the business case was really, we should find, I would say, place, first of all, where we could find the right talents. So I think that this is really the first thing that we took into consideration, because really, for now, I think we are now more than 250, and we made this in 12 months with the pandemic. So I think that for sure it's proved that the business case was right, because hiring all these kind of people with these capabilities that are also, I would say, cutting edge, it's not easy. But we found 250 of them for our company. So this is the first piece that we put into consideration. Then for sure, I would say the other idea was also making innovation in collaboration with our stakeholders. So this was also the other part that we put into our decision. And also, as also other colleagues here are commenting, the government is supporting supporting our work. So I would say academia, the universities, especially in Thessaloniki, we have 5 big universities, the biggest in Southeast Europe. So this is also something that we took into consideration, but not only for talents, as I said before, but also for making some research. So this was also what we took for sure into consideration. For sure, also, I would say when you start to work with an ecosystem, it's also important that this ecosystem is supported also from the institutions. So, for example, the agreement that there was among Greece and the US some time ago, I would say on summertime, when Mike Pompeo came also here in Thessaloniki, it's really important for us because it's supporting our strategy. So the connection that we are having with these companies and the ecosystem, it's really something that is supporting our work. So I think that this was the business case that we made, also taking into consideration the digital strategy. So this is also something that the government is implementing and it is supporting us. So these were all the factors that we took into consideration, together for sure also with the support from an investment perspective, from I would say for research and development. These were all the things that we took into consideration. As I said, the results that I can share with you that we are really doing great. So this is also the reason why Alex commented that now we decided also to expand investment also with another type of hub, more I would say about the shared services internally.
And there had to have been some things that didn't go perfectly. So what are some examples of challenges you faced, risks that you didn't expect, anything that might be not quite as good as you had hoped?
No, really, I have to say that we didn't have challenge. I would say the thing that I would have liked to host, I would say the people that we hired more in our office. So I think, but this is common to everyone in the world, so we cannot host due to the pandemic. But for the rest,
Right.
Really, not because I'm here, not because I'm here with you. What can we say? 250 people in 12 months, and we are all happy also in the global organization of the quality of these talents.
Yeah.
We have a very nice temporary site, and now we are moving to the permanent one. I think that until now it was really, really good, I have to say.
Great. Well, that's good news. I wanted to ask a little bit about remote work for people. So, generally speaking, I think this is really, without question, I don't think it's without question changed the nature of working for everybody. And, to in many regards, it seems like it should be a benefit for Greece because people can be in Greece and remotely work either for a Greek company or a foreign company. But it also introduces the option for Greeks to remotely work for foreign companies. And so we want to be sure that the incentives of working for a local company are competitive from an employee perspective. And whether that's taxation or legal issues or whatever infrastructure is necessary, we want it to be competitive so that a Greek company has as much chance of landing a really high-end person located in Greece, whether they're Greek or foreign, and versus say a multinational company that's willing to let someone remotely work in Greece. So is that something that any of you have thought about and encountered? Nick, Kanopoulos, have you seen any of that being a challenge? You're on mute.
Actually, this doesn't apply in our case because we cannot really work remotely since our work is materials, lab, machines, and essentially hardware. I mean, a research center that is based on either software development or any type of service that it's platform based, it can really remote work is entirely feasible. And by the way, you're bringing a very good point here because there are some Greeks now, and I think that this will expand as remote work becomes more mainstream for Greeks seeking employment with foreign companies abroad. And that can also create some problems that will need to be addressed by the government because the person, especially if the company is European, can choose the tax residency anywhere they want in Europe. However, in our case, we have to be physically present and do the work there. One thing that I have to mention, especially for our friends based in the US, for locating here a company that, like for example, Pfizer, that is doing digitalization and software-based work, is that one very fundamental and critical thing that this government achieved with the United States is to remove Greece from the list of countries where American companies prohibited to invest in because of IP piracy, software piracy. This government achieved to do that, and now US companies are not really prohibited by the US government to invest in Greece because of that hurdle.
That's great.
So that's a major achievement of the government, and I think it opens. I mean, Microsoft wouldn't happen if that thing was not happened before. So for US-based companies, that's very basic.
So Chris, so Orfium, I think is a pretty classic example of, you have not a classic example, but a nice scenario where you have US operations and Greek operations. And so we can really see through this scenario the contrast between these two things. So the employees in Greece are Greeks, they pay Greek taxes, they have Greek benefits. The employees in the US are probably mostly US taxpayers. What are the differences that you see? How do you treat these groups differently? Do they get compensated differently because cost of living is different? Do they have different benefit structures? Is the hiring a different process? Is there a contrast between these two, or is the world really flat when it comes to that sort of thing?
It's a good question. There are some differences in different facets. Well, first of all, when we started here, just given that we had a completely different type of operation happening here, it was all software engineers. It was, it's a different culture from, the business development operations, type of activities. Although now that is changing, I think culturally it's harmonizing more, because the office is now, much more multi-dimensional. There are some differences in how payroll is handled. There's a difference in the cost of living between Los Angeles and Greece. So, pay is different, based on that. Although those differences tend to diminish for higher level positions. And I think part of that is because, people do have the option to work remotely for other companies, and, for top level decision makers. I think the pay is a lot more even because of that. There's differences in some benefits. The healthcare system's completely different in the US than in Greece. So we have to provide healthcare as a company in the US. It's not taken care of by the state as it is here. But otherwise, and the other thing we had to get used to at first, more from an accounting standpoint, was the 14-month payroll cycle.
Right.
We've had a few cases where we forgot to take that into consideration in some forecasts and things, but we're used to it now.
That's a Greek institution. You can't touch that. Great. Well, thank you, Chris. Continue, please, if you have more.
I was just going to say there's been, my understanding, some recent changes with respect to the law surrounding stock options, and our policy is to really try to treat everybody as evenly as possible. So we do have stock option plans for everybody, and I'm glad to hear that, you know, that there have been progressive changes on that front as well.
Can I interrupt here and
Yeah, sure. Go ahead,
add
Nick.
something to the discussion? One thing that is very beneficial for let's say stock owners in Greece is that the dividend tax is very low. It's 5%. It's not regular income as it's in the US. So if you give your people stock options and they wait to exercise those until they need money or leave the company, it's of course one thing. And there's also a capital gains tax here that is higher than the dividend tax. But if they exercise the options when the options mature and they hold stock, then one way to pay the employees is by paying out the dividend to those holding stock options, because that's where, for example, instead of giving a bonus where the taxation,
not stock options.
taxation is humongous, dividend tax is low. And yeah, Alex?
I can't believe I forgot to mention that. So dividend tax is 5% now, and capital gains tax is 15%. But if you hold listed equities and you own less than 0.5% of the company, then it's 0. So, and stock options, 15%, restricted stock units, 15%. And that's that really. Thank you.
Yep, that's good.
That's an indirect way to give bonuses and tax them really low.
At a lower rate. Yeah, very good. Thank you. So I think I want to move into a slightly different area, and that is Nico talked about the ecosystem and sort of a lot, and Nick Kanopoulos talked about sort of the effect of something like Atmel creating the ecosystem, in that case, of companies in Patras that are seeing tremendous opportunity and growth these days. Alex, are you seeing from your perch on, you know, as you see all the various opportunities that are coming to Greece, are there areas, are there sectors that appear to be gaining more momentum, to be something that Greece is considered expert in? You know, there's this belief that Israel, for example, is an expert in water technology because they've had to deal with, you know, not having a lot of water for years. So if you ever want anything to do with really high-end water technology, Israel is the place to go. And that took years and years of development and companies and investment. Are there areas that you're starting to see in Greece that look like they may be core competencies that Greece as an ecosystem is developing? It could be too early to see something like that. There could be so many things happening, but have you seen anything like that? Do you have any early indications?
I think you should ask that question to the rest of the panel, but I will take your question and answer a slightly different one because it was also on the chat. There was a question about Israel, and you mentioned Israel too. I mean, we are in contact with Israel, and we were there in a year ago, actually, during the pandemic. We went twice last year to Israel. They have obviously a very interesting tech community. Having said that, there are differences. Israel was driven primarily by defense. I mean, Israel tech primarily by defense for obvious reasons. And this does not have, you know, does not carry over into Greece. But we do have interest, for example, Israeli companies investing in ag tech. I really go back to what I said before. I really don't know. I really am a markets guy. I mean, ag tech, for example, I have no idea what ag tech is. It's agricultural technology, and obviously a huge opportunity in Greece. Yeah, so there's many different stuff that is going on. There was another question too, similarly. Hold on, where can I find it here? That said, yeah, AI. I think AI could be an interesting one. We've also tried to push the idea of Greece being the cradle of democracy, that issues such as ethics and technology could be discussed in Greece. And
I love that. That's a great idea. That's a wonderful idea. Yeah.
And then the other question, Brexit. Brexit is a huge opportunity for. There was a question by someone in the Q&A, obviously not directly related to the United States, but Brexit is interesting simply because whereas before, I think there was this view that companies would pick a city to relocate to out of London, they would move to Frankfurt or whatever. Now I think the view is that they'll just do a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit somewhere else. And Greece does fit into this. And we have had companies come to Greece for that reason. But but you have to be careful. You're not allowed to target, this is international, let's say, tax law. You cannot say, because you're coming from the UK, I'm going to give you a different tax rate. That would not be allowed under OECD rules. What can Greeks of the diaspora do to help? Spread the word is the obvious. And I would say that everybody understands their own company better than anybody else. So, one of the reasons the Microsoft deal went through was simply that we had excellent representatives in Microsoft Greece who knew how Microsoft headquarters operated, because the companies are big and they have you need to understand what levers to push from the inside. So we would say try to work through in your own company, and we're very happy to do the sell with any of your bosses that you can put us in front of, sorry. And obviously for those who have their own companies, I would say try us out, move to Greece. If you don't want to do it permanently, come for a month, check it out, see how it works, send some people over for an experiment and see what happens. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Alex. So we have about 3 or 4 more minutes here. And I think I'd like to ask each of you what your plans are for growth in Greece. What are you expecting size-wise as companies to see over the next 2 or 3 years? And is there anything from the discussion today that you'd want to ask Alex to think about that might be impeding any of those decisions? Sorry, Nick Kanopoulos, you go first. 2 minutes though, Nick. Keep it short. Thank you.
Okay. We are a startup company. We have developed our product, validated our product. We're in the process of raising Series A funds at 8.6 million. We have secured half of it, and we are looking for the rest. We hope to close soon in order to build a factory. We are going to build a factory in Patras,
right,
to essentially manufacture our product in a pilot form at 1.3 million square meters per year of solar glass, and then we will expand from there. So it is a truly operational company, not a product development or R&D center, and it will happen hopefully this year.
Great. Chris Mohoney, what's the outlook for Orfium in Greece? I know you talked about expanding roles. Would you give us any numbers of how many people you are at now, how many people you would expect? Anything you'd be willing to share?
So we're 246 worldwide, of which 132 are in Greece. The others are, about 40% of our companies in LA, and then we have a smaller outpost in Southeast Asia. We're expecting to be at 336 total by the end of the year, of which 213 will be in Greece. So most of our growth this year is actually happening in Greece. And then, up to this point, we've been really growing organically from, just reinvesting profits. We've been, growing 60 to 80% year over year. And right now, we're planning to bring in a large amount of capital to accelerate our growth. We think that, that would put us at, over 100% year-over-year growth. So I guess, do the math, and 2 years from now, 3 years, we could easily be, upwards of 1,000 employees, and probably most of that will be in Greece.
Fantastic. Nico, are you willing to give us any insight on Pfizer's plans?
Yes, we have, I would say, a long-term plan because, as I said, now we are 250 people in the Center for Digital Innovation. The plan for closing this year is 300. So additional 50 people in our center. For 2022, I can share that we are going to hire also in this year, so I cannot share still the number because we are still in discussion. But I can say to you that we are receiving always more requests from the organization in New York. So because they are realizing that, as I said, that people are really good in the work that they are doing. So the outlook is really positive. And also from an investment perspective, consider that next, I would say at the end of this year, September, October, we are going to move to the permanent site. That will be really a huge, great place to work here in Thessaloniki. So I think that the outlook is really good.
Great. Well, thank all of you. Alex, really appreciate you coming. Nick, Chris, Nico, I really enjoyed the discussion. I hope we covered most people's thoughts and questions. I'm going to turn it over to Antigoni Molodanof, who's in charge of the MIT Enterprise Forum Greece. She's the executive director there, and I think she has some important announcements to share with everybody in the last few minutes that we have. So thanks, everybody. Again, thanks to the organizers, and really enjoyed our discussion today, and hope people found it productive. Antigoni, floor is yours.
Hey, thank you, Michael. Good evening to everybody from me too. Thank you all for such an interesting, fascinating discussion. And of course, you, Michael, for an excellent job as always. So let me give you a brief update of this year's Meet of Greece Startup Competition Round. Our 12 finalists were drawn out of the 32 outstanding semi-finalist teams competing in 3 sector tracks: general, energy, and maritime. I know we say this every year, which is truly remarkable for the meet of competition and the technology entrepreneurship in Greece, but the teams we have worked with these years has been the strongest. We're amazed by their efforts towards entering the market and become successful entrepreneurs. During the acceleration program, with the invaluable assistance of our sponsoring partners, we ran 15 workshops that exponentially increased all teams' value proposition. Following the second round judging, which took place in mid-May, we announced the 12 finalist teams that qualified for the finals. We may say it's an incredibly diverse group of exciting technology startups at various stages in their development cycles and with different goals. You can check out their short pitches on our Meet of Greece site. And now we're on the stage with the finals. On Monday, July 5, we'll perform the final judging in a closed session. And on Tuesday, July 6, we'll host the 2021 award ceremony via a live streaming event. So please save the date. Thank you all very much. Please follow us on our social media and keep an eye out for all events that we're planning for the near future. Thank you all. Have a great night. And we're waiting to have you in our award ceremony.
Thank you, Antigoni. Thanks again, everybody. It was a pleasure. Talk to you all later.
Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.